For the record, not trying to be a coach. This is lies. I'm not sure if it's slander because it's kind of positive, but we'll go with it later. Instead, gets the NRG on the defense first, so that attack plan a little bit delayed. Instead, it's gonna be Buds on the Genji, where even though we know him more for his hit-scan play, there was a world for a while where he was doing more projectiles, so not entirely off the cup.
And we saw at the beginning of the season, Tailspin actually pick up a lot of the Tracer duties for Envy, so I guess that's just kind of how they want to delegate the responsibilities here. But, you know, this is what I like to see out of Envy, especially on the point A offense. Just go for the unabated aggression with the full dive composition. Shiny trolling around a little bit with that Widowmaker. Maybe he goes out for a peek, maybe he doesn't, we'll see. Looks like he's just trying to get some sight lines here, but he shouldn't be going over to that Winston. You need that able body to help out, of course, Buds on the Genji. NRG, though, on the defensive, nothing really strange here. They've got the Orisa Diva along with the Widowmaker and the Junkrat for their defense. And so Envy had to be careful making their approach. The spam could be really deadly here on Anubis.
Certainly so, and Buds, we'll see what goes on this attack. Obviously, we've seen some teams try and run dive here and end up getting very much stuck at the gates, but Buds is already through, Envy gets through the gates, and they're not going to be seeing that here, where instead they get to be considerably more aggressive. Buds on the left-hand side, looking for his way through, distracting the rest of the team, diving in with them. Bud's a little bit slow to dive in, but now has both supports in front of them, takes down Fozix, strikes right on back, deflects the Junkrat. Nice stuff coming out from Buds.
Crimzo finishing off Rascal there. Shiny now takes out Rob, and just like that, Envy. Their dive was a little bit disjointed there, as you had mentioned, you know, Buds took a little while to get on top of Mercy, but he ultimately did, taking Fozix out, and so now Envy just took about a minute to get point A, so they'll have 7 moving on to the next phase, and now we have some swap-offs coming out. They have to make these are necessary. Stratus goes over to the Brigitte because he's expecting a Dragon Blade out of Buds. He's currently sitting at 92% now towards it. Someone needs to shut it down.
And the Blade, of course, that will be coming down to Stratus. Maybe a slight assist from Rascal if he's able to land a good tire, but those are 2 things Buds has to worry for. Of course, last time we saw Buds on Dragon Blade here wasn't that great, but now he knows there's no trade sense of play. Dives in, cuts Rascal down midstream, no tire with a chance. Ends up with 3. A way better Blade from Buds here compared to the last time we saw him on Anubis.
Honestly, it was just they spotted out Stratus. Stratus was not near the support line, and so Buds was able to get into the back for free, and just like that, Envy take point B with 6 minutes and 17 seconds in their time bank.
NRG just got rolled. Plain and simple. That was about one of the quickest attacks we've seen on Anubis this season so far. And that's going to be a huge hill for NRG to climb. And now I do like this. I think if we see Rascal on the Tracer, it might mean we see Stratus here in the Genji, and that's sort of NRG's power play. That's where I think they've been strongest, so if they swapped that, I think it's going to be pretty good for them.
Yeah, I mean, Rascal does have a deep hero pool. He can play hit scan, he can play projectile. He just prefers to play the projectile, but, you know, at some points, you have to make a compromise in a relationship, ZP. That's how everyone ends up happy, all right? So we're trying to foster a loving marriage here, I guess, between Stratus and Rascal now. It's going to be the full dive for them because, well, it worked out well for Envy, and of course, this is points A of Anubis. You just got to go for this. Buds will go over, looks like, to the Mei, possibly just to get the boost up for Shiny because the boxes aren't there for him to actually get himself up. We'll see if Bud swaps off or if he sticks with it.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to stand the Mei. That's why he's holding back there. He goes, I will be your elevator, and then go back. It's not quite as dramatic as Reinhardt saying, I'll be your shield. Mei says, I draw the line and actually humming out elevator music. But no, I think Bud's is going to go back and swap off to a Widow. Yeah,
that was actually the early draft of the Enrique Iglesias song. You know, I will be your elevator, baby.
Yeah, I see why it didn't work out that way.
Stairs. Yeah.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that's sort of like the bloopers you did not hear and did not want to hear right there. But NRG going to be going to a, well, they put Rascal in the Widow, so it's not quite as full dive, but they're also fine with this. Stratus has been very good at sort of freelancing to the back. It's going to be up to Tail to be clever with the traps and Buds to be quick on the recoils to deal with it. And nope, Rascal back to Tracer. Indecision.
And so they're going to just put all their eggs into basically this Widow basket. So Tailspin's on the high ground. Never mind. It looks like they might have just dropped down. No, it's the Diva. But really, they put the trap up there. They got to try and make sure that the Widow's Perch is just protected. But Crimzo, he's caught out. All the divers are there. He does have, of course, to take a breather to keep himself alive and kite away. But now, you're on the high ground. He does have the protection of Tailspin if anyone tries to jump onto him. Try and disengage with the mines.
Envy's in a precarious spot here. NRG can dive very deeply into their back line. They've had good position. They're looking for the D-Mech, but Gravy in trouble right now. Just barely able to get away. And oh, Rascal runs face first in the Tailspin's grenade. Envy able to get themselves out of the fire there a bit. That was looking scary, and still might be as Tailspin falls the Specs on the other end. It's back and forth, but that still favors the offensive NRG, especially not Stratus can clean up.
Oh no, it's a definite mad advantage for NRG at this point, and so they're just regrouping here because they understand they've got everything going in their favor. Stratus will be able to take out Shiny now. It's just the whole hog used by Crimzo to try and keep them at bay, but they will be able to clean this up, not as quickly as Envy, but still basically on pace. Real big difference, though, coming into this next fight is that a lot more ultimates were built up by NRG for this point B offense. So the Snowball has a higher chance of success as they have both support ultimates. They've almost got the Blade and the Pulse Bomb of Rascal. If you could take Tailspin out of this fight, that'll set up Stratus for a huge Blade.
Yeah, this Anubis might be going to double digits at this point because this is a fight that NRG should absolutely win. Envy is so far behind here with so many ways that they just outright lose. NRG playing with the house money a bit, coming on in. They're taking their time, which is dangerous, and now the self-destruct could ruin them, but here comes Stratus. Blade out, 2 already. Let's make it 3. Crimzo nowhere to go, dives on over the other side. An excellently executed Blade coming in here by Stratus, and the rest of NRG gets to just slowly saunter onto the point.
McGravy tries to stall with that Diva, with the defense, or with the self-destruct, but it was not enough. He wasn't able to make it back onto the points, and so with that, 5 minutes and 49 seconds, that's what NRG have in their timing, just short of Envy by less than 20 seconds.
Buckle up. This could be a long ride. Both teams are great at offense. Not sure either knows how to play defense. This could go a while.
It could definitely go a while. And basically exactly what happened, what we expected for NRG. They had so many ultimates to try and snowball onto point B. Rascal, though, instead of going in with that Pulse Bomb, he actually held on to it and instead pressured the points. And he knew that the tank front line of Envy were trying to keep NRG at bay, closer towards the door. And so it was up to, I believe it was Tailspin who was on the Brigitte to actually jump onto it. That meant that there was a noticeable gap between both the Brigitte along with the support line, and then finally he got pressured down as the rest of NRG came on in with the Brigitte out of play. That allowed Stratus to go in with the Blade.
And not only that, I mean, NRG just had so many ults they could rely on there that they had margin for error for days. The other thing, too, is that, again, the reason why I sort of soapbox about the strongest NRG has been at is that Rascal was playing the Tracer very well. He is, without a doubt in my mind, the best hit scan player in NRG. And even though Rascal is very good in projectile, I think Stratus has a better projectile game than him. Certainly on Far, and I think also at times on Genji. So NRG, I do think this is sort of their perfect form right now.
We'll see if they can recreate the offense with this perfect form roster now. Stratus did make things happen with that Genji. As we have the similar lineup coming up from Team Envy, nothing really changing here. We'll see this time if Buds or Tailspin can make anything happen right now. Buds on the low ground with this Widowmaker is able to get a good shot off onto Specs. That's going to delay the push, but Swan still goes in even though Specs was low health.
Yeah, I think there's a miscommunication there. It's like, Diva's really chunked. Still jump in anyways, but it still might work out. Stratus right now is a huge threat to Widow in the backline, coming on in, funneling Envy close together. Although look at Tailspin, comes up to try and save, but it's not enough. Specs is there to support Stratus, and now NRG has infiltrated deeply into Envy territory, and Stratus is like, yeah, still gonna go in deeper, go for the deflect, look for the recent dash on out. Meanwhile, Rascal poking tanks on the outside. Roadhog, deep danger and down, throws out the Pulse Bomb sticks, and he's out of there. NRG about ready to take point A once more.
Now they do bring Crimzo back into this, and somehow Tailspin takes out Smack, so they're trying to fight back in, but we'll see if he can. He does have the health pack, he's got the recall. They haven't dealt with the Roadhog, and that's still a dangerous threat, but never mind. Crimzo is forced to use that take a breather right now. As he gets his HP back, buys enough time, Buds is back, and they take out Stratus and Rascal.
The problem is the attrition is so difficult here. I think that Envy has fought back a lot more than expected, in no small part due to Crimzo somehow staying alive there. Able to res up McGravy. NRG might have let Envy off the hook, but Crimzo finally down, no longer immortal. Res Wan cooldown, and I think NRG's still going to be able to overpower here. The question is that do they have to invest resources? You make Stratus waste the blade. The answer to that should be no. He should be able to hold on to it, but Envy has bought themselves more time here for sure.
Yeah, they're going to try their stall now as McGravy along with Mercy. Never mind, the Mercy is no longer there. There we go. They're going to clean them up. And so, even though NRG are going to be able to move on to point B with 4 ultimates, Envy with the stall meant that they were able to build up their own. Odd now, Crimzo swapping off as he goes over to the Brigitte, and so they're still, you know, trying to deal with Stratus as a threat with that Genji blade, but having your off-tank going over to it, that's not a look that we see often.
The only way Envy really defends this in all likelihood is either someone from NRG gets over aggressive and Brigitte bopped, or they get a big self-destruct. There's so much power on NRG's side here, and well, Rob got caught by Tailspin, that's one part. Stratus stunned to the other end, still gets Crimzo, but he has to use most of the blade to do so. Not as clean for NRG as they would like, but they're still getting good progress on the point. However, Fire stuck around, got the res back up. Envy's coming in on the outskirts. Swan gets caught. Crimzo from being back in, finishes Rascal, and that's gonna be enough. So NRG had a big moment there, and a lot of it started out with Tailspin getting that early pick on the Zen.
Yeah, Rascal was just chasing after McGravy there, and he forgot to look both ways, and finally when he looks into traffic, there's a Brigitte in his face, and you see how quickly a Tracer falls in the face of a Brigitte. So Stratus will go ahead and swap off to that himself, as Rascal goes now over to the Pharah. So we'll see if he can try and deal with this, as we have, of course, double projectile for Team Envy. Buds on the Hanzo. Tailspin has swapped off to the Junkrat.
I like the Junkrat swap here. However, it does mean that Rascal's gonna have a lot of room to work with. You're almost daring Rascal to beat you, and oh boy, one rocket doing that much splash damage. He's kind of in the process doing that. Swan, so much disruption, hitting 4 or 5 people with one swing of his meaty monkey hands. Going back the other way, and Swan makes good disruption here for NRG. Bombing shot's gonna be enough. Stratus under fire. Swan ends up falling towards the end, and Buds is finding room to work with. Doesn't get the Mercy though, which means NRG is still in it.
They are still in it, but Team Envy, they're finding the kills, and they've also got support ultimates in this. So if anything starts turning sour, they do have the kind of like their get out of jail free cards in the Transcendence. Rob gets an elimination onto Tailspin, but the fight's already over, so NRG now are down to 2 minutes and 5 seconds. They haven't gotten anything going here. Rascal was able to build up, of course, that barrage, but it's going to be so difficult coming into point B here to try and get it off safely. Buds, of course, on that Hanzo, with the relative short distance between the ground and the air, he should be able to shoot her out of the sky pretty quickly. She also has to worry about a Riptire coming in from Tailspin. There's so many threats for Rascal to deal with.
I mean, this is old school defense on Anubis, where you portion out your ultimates, make sure you have one good one up, and then you just make sure you can start the defensive snowball. And no bigger part of that right now is Tailspin and the Riptire, where there's not a great answer to the Riptire that NRG has right now, short of Tail just not being too smart at using it. But you can't rely on that, as he throws in the barrage, and Rascal's immediately down. And guess what? Tail's being smart with his Riptire approach, comes back the other way. Yep, that's gonna finish off Stratus, and I don't think the Dragon was needed. That was a little bit of unnecessary firepower, but it's decisive for Envy.
And so now Rascal will be swapping off. Stratus is going to stick with the Brigitte, the triple support composition for NRG. Not goats, just triple support, guys. We're not quite there yet. But as we come down to the wire, we might see those swap-offs. Stratus, close to the rally. He's at 88%, but it's Smex now with the self-destruct. We'll see. Maybe he could throw in a good Hail Mary, lob it in, and get a few members of Team Envy, but Envy have been doing a really good job of hiding away from a lot of these threats.
Well, I think they back up now. At least give time for Rascal to get back up. But I think you're right, the Hail Mary play for Smex, he's done it before. He's got to be sneaky with the self-destruct. Tailspin went down, they have an opportunity.
Yeah, the rally was used, and they are going to push forward slowly but surely. 20 seconds now left for NRG, and they need to make any progress on this point as possible. Crimzo takes out Swan, though, and Swan was so close to the Primal.
NRG's dive disjointed here, their tank line in tatters, and that's a Dragon, just going to be splitting them all off. Rascal freelancing to the right side, but by the way, there's a Tire. Tire coming back the other way. Tailspin going with this tire. The other sense he goes, well, I guess everyone's dead in the back line. It doesn't really matter. Rascal would have fallen to the tire moment there, but Envy with a much better defense the second time around.
Yeah, no progress made whatsoever on point B, and with the way point A defense have been going, it's looking like Envy are going to have about 5 minutes, 4.5 minutes to attack point B and just get a third. So NRG are really behind it at this point. And now Envy, of course, because their attack was so successful, they don't need to change anything up. They're going to go with what looks like the full dive, while NRG on the defense, we'll see. They're not going to go for the solo support defense. It's going to be Rob on the Zenyatta, so they're going to try and, prioritize sustain over just the raw staying and fighting power of having a Roadhog for your flex support.
It'll be interesting to see how it works out, where, I mean, a lot of teams do rely on the Roadhog to be sort of the glue behind the scenes, where you can be a little bit more self-sufficient, you can take more damage on the side, you still have to pay attention to him, because if you don't, he's going to get a hook off. Regardless, you take a look at Envy, they have no reason to change what they did the first time around, because it was really quick. And even though they were able to adapt to NRG, who is also quick on the other side, Envy has no reason to believe that NRG will have good adaptations to what they're about to run here once more.
What's really important for NRG, I don't want to, think of point A as a foregone conclusion, but you kind of have to at this point with 6 minutes on the line. NRG need to be able to stall out point A long enough to build up their ultimate so they don't get ultimately snowballed on point B. They need to be able to reestablish if they do lose point A here. So we'll see if they can make this a battle of attrition, build up ultimates for themselves.
Stratus looking for pickoffs in the back, but NRG wasn't really able to contest Envy from getting good position here early on, which means that the next stage of dive is way more deadly. Buds to the back, pressuring the Widow, getting her out of sight lines, looping around. Crimzo might be out of fight, but there's still damage being done. Rascal down. Buds finds Rob, dives on in, already 60% to a Dragon Blade, and Tailspin's picking up the scraps on the other side. And this is dangerous now for NRG, not just because they're going to lose this point, but because Buds is going to have a blade for point B.
And NRG, they were not able to delay this out long enough. Take a look, Fozix is at 53%, Rob is at 36%, so Stratus has to make the emergency swap off onto Brigitte to try and deal with Buds, who will be able to snowball into this. Most importantly though, Buds has backup into this. Never mind, Tailspin swaps off even though he was so close to a bomb, but he will also have Fire, who's very nearly got himself a Valkyrie, so he can join him. He can charge on forward with the Guardian Angel and damage boosting through that blade.
Look, I gotta tell you, by the way, speaking of blades, Buds isn't known for being patient with his blades. He's just gonna dive on in. He wants to take the fight right to them and get Stratus! No stun to be had. It's a double kill for Buds. Going back the other way. That's exactly what Envy was looking for. Blink and you miss it. Envy taking map number 3. And Jamerson, you almost fell off your chair. That was close.
I almost fell off my chair. I'm actually impressed at how low the scores were traditionally in Contenders North America, where defense is not really a thing. There's no D in Anubis. That's all I know. No D in Anubis.
Well, I think Envy definitely found their defensive posture towards the end, but
sure,
NRG...
the first couple attack rounds there were pretty...
Ooh, yeah, people forgot.
Yeah, but they remembered there, and great defensive hold there by Envy. NRG obviously unable to deal with the Genji Dragon Blade. And I think that's really just kind of the theme of Anubis here and why these get so snowbally. It is really difficult to deal with the Dragon Blade in those tight spaces unless you have something that can just pin him down.
Well, also, Genjis are getting a lot better at looking for Brigittas and immediately taking them down, where as a Brigitte, you have a very small window to react. And if you react well, I mean, the Genji looks like a fool and is blown up, but Genjis are getting better at coming in from sneakier angles, tougher sides to react to, and it doesn't take much for the Genji to put you in the ground.
It's kind of like that old board game, Don't Wake Daddy. Like, you just have to avoid the Brigitte. And then you can get off the crazy Dragon Blade. Jamerson, sorry, I interrupted you there.
No, I was just really surprised that secondary push on point B actually worked out, because Crimzo was the first one to fall in that fight, by the way. He was the Lucio, and he was just like, oh, we're playing a dive composition? Oh, I'm supposed to dive with you, right? And he was in the thick of things, and he was the first one to fall, but somehow they were able to bring it back. And honestly, it was just all the damage also being prioritized over onto Buds, and so he was able to build up that Dragon Blade. It was a great play coming out from the members of Team Envy there, and so now they're in the lead.
Yeah, I want to get a little bit of a pulse check here. We were talking about Stratus on the hit scan, maybe not impressing us as much as he was on Projectile. We did see him on some Widowmaker on the defense there. Really feel like he necessarily wasn't accomplishing that much. Do we want to continue to see him try to flex there or relegate him mostly to that Projectile role?
I think he should be on Projectile pretty clearly, and NRG looked the best this map when, what was the setup? You had Stratus on the Genji, Rascal on the Tracer, where, again, I will say time and time again for this particular team is that Rascal is your best hit scan player. You should keep him on the hit scan because he's going to do stuff like this. Stratus is going to do what he was doing with the Blade. When you mix them all up and you put Rascal on the Projectile DPS, you're not playing to your strengths. Maybe it's a case where Rascal wants to do that. Maybe the coaches feel like he's just that good in Projectile. I don't think it's the best look for them, especially when we've seen them do so well in the other setup.
I think it probably is difficult with Rascal too because he does have that wide DPS hero pool. He's clearly no slouch when it comes to playing the Genji, so certainly considerations have to be made. I am curious, though, to see if NRG really mixes it up for this final map here, potentially if they do lose. Could we potentially even see Poise come in? Obviously, that's something they have been experimenting with.
No, I don't think you take that risk. You do not take that risk right now. Poise has not proven himself to be able to be a reliable DPS, and when you're already a map down and it's match point, you can't take any risk at all. So I don't see NRG doing that. This map in particular looks like we're going to see a lot more of the dives. So we're going to be seeing the Genjis. We're going to be seeing the Widowmakers also. So it's going to be a real test between the DPS here on Gibraltar. All
right, well, we're going to see what happens. We're not going to see what happens. This is the power of production, by the way. Just in my ear, it's like, actually, no. But I'm inclined to agree, although it's weird when you have 3 DPS players, right, on any team, because you're constantly like, well, you know, who's actually getting the time? And if you're not using someone, why are you not using them? Like, what is their function on the team? And I think watching what we've seen thus far, maybe I'm inclined to agree with ZP. Maybe this is the roster you want to stick with for this particular map when your life is on the line in the series. But when do you bring in Poise then? Like, what is the purpose of Poise on this team?
I think it's a little bit difficult in the Contenders format because the issue that you have is that every match really matters, right? You have a relatively limited season and losing a single match could really hurt your chances. On the same note, in terms of player development, right? You would like to get players as many reps as possible, where the dream would be you have an 8-man roster and all 8 of your players are in demand for OWL. Like, that's sort of the Contenders GM, I've done everything right moment. The problem is that unless the players are very even in skill, it's very difficult to make that happen. And so far from what we've observed, there has been a pretty big difference in Poise versus when you have Rascal or Stratus in over him. So it's just a problem in terms of if everyone's not on the exact same level, it's hard to sort of hit that development level and try and essentially sell as many players as possible.
All right, well, let's go ahead and see what happens. I'm inclined to agree. I'd be surprised if we see Poise. We are going to get into Gibraltar here, and
yeah, this makes sense. Although, again, I guess you're running double hit scan in a sense. I don't think... No, that's actually, this is probably for real. I do think this is happening. We have the Ana there. We're just missing the Torb. They're not full committing.
You don't need the Torbjorn.
No,
it works. We got to see it, and apparently it was
you.
also a thing in Korean Contenders, particularly here, point A. And honestly, I do agree with it, right? Especially with Mercy's in play. Mercy here on point A of Gibraltar on defense, it can be so difficult to try and get a defensive resurrection off, especially the further along you get and the closer you get to the payload to the point. And so you just forego that because you're not going to be able to get a res. So you just go with raw healing output and also being able to get damage mitigation, anti-healing with the Ana.
Look, I learned from my good friend and professor of criminology from the Breaking Bad University, Mike, that you don't take half measures. This is a half measure, where it might be a very effective half measure, but it still hurts me to my core. Bring up the Torb. Let's go.
Shiny and McGravy have to be expert in this dive here, and I actually like what NRG are doing. They've only got like the tanks there in the front line. Excuse me, NV are doing. They've only got the tanks there in the front line, pushing the payload for as far as they can as they make their way through to the server room. But adjustments are now being made from the NRG squad as they realize that NV are trying to wrap around to the high ground side against them.
And they're trying to find a right way to deal with this newly repositioned Bastion, who, for now, might as well be immune to the Widow pressure from the other side. However, they're giving up a lot of payload progress for this, where Envy is slowly but surely getting more and more payload push done here. They're prioritizing the objective and taking advantage of the fact that NRG doesn't really want to invest anyone onto the point right now. But like I say, heroes never die. They've absorbed a lot of Bastion fire. Now they move in, and Rascal gonna hit the ground there. The Valkyrie support from Fire all too good for NV, and they played that quite well.
Yeah, they just avoided all the sidelines. NRG tried to punish them, right? Every time the halt was there, Rascal tries his best to focus that down now. Now they put themselves in a really tight spot as they have to make a lot of swap-offs. Rascal goes over to the Doomfist, the Swan goes over to the Winston now. And they're trying to retreat as best they can, but Smex gets caught out. So as we move into the second phase of Gibraltar here, they're going to have 4.5 minutes to finish out the second phase of the map.
The problem that NRG's going to have here, too, is that they have to make a lot of wholesale swaps, so they're not exactly going to be rich in ultimates right now. In fact, it's quite the opposite. So they're dealing with an Envy that has momentum, and oh, that would have been a nice shot from Buds. Not quite able to nail the Tracer, has to get positioning, but now you look to Shiny. He can feel confident that goes deep as he wants because he's angry. Gonna start pushing Widow to the side, comes back over the other way. He's already split up NRG quite a bit. Now looking for more. Tailspin off on the flank, found Rascal, and Envy just doing whatever they want right now on this point.
Yeah, Tailspin even jumping onto the payload here as a self-destruct comes out from Smex. Nothing comes of it now. Oh, Kha'Zix, it's the other sniper you want to try and take that 1v1 duel up against. The Hanzo, not quite your target. The Shiny will get a nice stagger onto Stratus here, and NRG are just crumbling in the wake of Team Envy.
Right now, I'm hearing the Sonic theme in my head. I think right now we might be at games done quick. This is an absurd speed run that's going on right now. 5 minutes for Envy to bring this to the end of point C. NRG might as well have not been on the map so far.
And still, they don't have that kind of same impact, right? They might as well not be. Rascal swapping off again, so whatever progress he made beforehand, it's already been erased now. He's got to reset his ultimates, and NRG are just struggling to catch up. Envy, though, they've got 3 ultimates coming into this next fight. They've got a Dragon Strike. We'll see if Tailspin can connect with it. As long as he splits up a team, that's fine enough.
Yeah, Tailspin, many options here, and they're going to open up here. Self-destruct to the other side. McGravy gets caught after the self-destruct, so he's going to get res back up. Meanwhile, it did catch Rob. However, because of the res being invested, they're not going to be able to bring back up Buds, and Envy does get a little bit stalled out as Tailspin going off on a journey right now. And now he's looking for a Dragon over the top. He might just let this fly. Instead, goes for Rob. Storm Arrows misses Rob, but gets Kha'Zix on the other end. And now can he climb his way out? Nope, no he can't.
Yeah, it looks like Brigitte able to deal with both Shimados pretty well, especially if they're up close. Transcendence is forced out. It's like McGravy able to do that with his Diva, and he will make it out safely. That could have been a great stall for NRG if they could have just gotten the knee back there. But finally, at least, they have stabilized, right? Their defense is now here. They've got ultimates online. Swan has one, along with Kha'Zix, Smex, and Rascal. So this is where it gets tough for Envy, where they're battling up against 4 ultimates from NRG. It's the Valkyrie the first one to come out for them.
I think it's safe to say Envy's not going to set the world record anymore. A few too many lives lost to begin with in Stratus. Now getting a little bit of momentum on the Widow. Picks up 2. Shiny, he's been disrupting, but it's not nearly enough. The Primal Rage essentially wasted. Wow, want to talk about going deep. That is one Winston for NRG and Swan that went very deep in the enemy side and lived to tell the tale.
Yeah, the PB pace destroyed now. NRG not allowing Envy to keep up that. As we move into this next fight, it's finally NRG who's got an advantage in terms of ultimates. I mean, they're able to use some and maintain some more ultimates. So they've got both tanks. They've got the self-destruct along with the Primal Rage. As up top, we had Stratus being body blocked. It was Rascal who's helping him out as McGravy was trying to get on top of him.
Stratus backs back the other way. Swan now really deep in enemy territory once more, but no one's punishing him, so why not? Disruption abounds for NRG. Rascal even got tail on the other end. And NRG holding much stronger here in point C than they did the rest of the map. 2 minutes left for Envy.
Stratus gets chased down by Shiny. These Winstons, along with the Divas, trying their best to deal with the Widowmakers. And it's Buds who's got the space to work with. Takes out Rascal, gets the team-back. Ooh, going Clay pigeon shooting there with that Winston, but it was Crimzo to finish him off.
Such a nice flick coming out from Buds. Caught Winston right in the noggin towards the end. Now he gets to go back to the left side, looking for Mercy. Doesn't connect. Sees his counterpart on the other end. Widow has to sacrifice her body on the point. Winston comes up once more, and Buds goes, I'm getting healed. I'm not afraid of you. Get off my perch. As Envy is going to be able to push this one in, and it's still a quick time because of how fast point A and B went.
That was like a minute 40, I think, on the clock for Team Envy there in the time bank. They were stalled out on the third points of Gibraltar, but they were ultimately able to go ahead and punch that one in. I think it was honestly just so much space that was created by Shiny, right? He was able to jump onto Stratus there. And then once Stratus is gone from without that Widow, NRG, they weren't able to contest Buds at all, who went completely unabated in the back. He was there on the high ground, got the shot off when he went for the grapple hook, and then also chunked down Swan, who tried to jump onto him. And Swan, really, he had no reason to be up there, right? He had the Orb of Discord on him, while the Widowmaker had the Orb of Harmony. There's just no way you take that fight.
There is a real disparity in mental states between the two at that point, where Swan's wondering what is going wrong. He's sort of questioning why he's here on this rock, whereas Buds is just getting all sorts of good feels and vibes from his Zenyatta. Wasn't great for Swan towards the very end. And Envy now have put themselves in a very good spot to take the series away from NRG, who's been running one of their strongest rosters. Very good look for Envy, especially as they have playoff dreams on the line.
Yeah, you need to set yourself aside from everyone else right now. They're sitting on a 2-1 record, so we're NRG, so this will go ahead and break the pack. So Team Envy on their offense. Buds, he's been having a standout Widowmaker game so far. Let him do that. Tailspin on the Brigitte for their defense. So we'll see how this works out. NRG, though, we'll see if Rascal wants to stick with this Roadhog. We'll see if they go with the quad tank. I don't think so. It's not traditionally a map or a point that you want to use that because you do need some firepower, but Stratus isn't swapping, so it looks like it's going to be quad tank for NRG.
EU is leaking once more. NRG, okay. No, yep, nope, they're still staying with the quad tank, so a little bit of swap of Fozix back to the Mercy, and that, we'll see if it works out. It's going to be beefy, it's going to be hardy, and we'll see if Envy has the cure.
Did we ever figure out what the cure was?
I mean,
we thought T-Virus?
We thought we had the cure from Fusion, where they're just playing really good flanking DPS around the corners, and then the show match didn't go so well. But let's not relive those days. Let's live in the here and now as Envy looks at this quad tank right in the eye.
Well, the great thing about like playing the quad tank up against this double sniper composition for against Envy is that, well, you really only have that avenue of approach from the DPS. Those are the only firing lanes, so you can avoid them pretty easily. Wow, the tank's just forcing back Envy.
Yeah, Envy really needs to keep the payload in mind here. Tailspin looking for tank damage from the top as Crimzo adds on his own little flare damage. See Tailspin gonna draw the Winston back, but the problem with quad tank is that once you lose the first tank, it quickly falls apart. It's very similar to a Goats comp in that respect, and Envy, they're able to get the first pick off, and it quickly went in their favor from there. And NRG, they've already had enough. They're swapping.
Yeah, one of the things about Ghost Comp is that there's like at least an inner synergy later on when you have your ultimates and such. Not the same thing with what we were running here with the Orisa Hog and the Winston Diva. And so yeah, it's just gonna be full all-out die for NRG. We'll see if they make it into the back line.
They put themselves so far behind an ult economy for doing that. Envy is so much up because they're able to wipe out all those tanks. Nice flick from Buds. Gets Rascal. Now he's gonna be looking for more. Targeting the main battlefield. Sees the Genji. Sees the Mercy. Mercy in his face. Here comes the Winston on the other side, but Buds bends back. Gets the support from his team. The tanks rotate right back on up. And Envy going back the other way. And Stratus going, please, just end me now. And they do.
And that's an absolute disaster for NRG because they spent the last 2 minutes, that last push and a half, building up their support ultimates. They committed both into a fight in which they were already a man, maybe 2 members down now. So Team Envy are going to walk away. Huge victors in that last battle. They're able to hold on to their Dragon Strike. They got a self-destruct and a Primal Rage here. They're also ahead in terms of ultimate charge for Crimzo towards his next Transcendence. NRG really put themselves behind with that last engagement.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think even from the very beginning, when you run a quad tank opening, your idea is that you get the point for free, but if you don't get the point, you've just put yourself so many fights behind ult economy, and Envy, no problems, bending back, they let loose the dragon, they clear the top, Swan's out of the fight so early that NRG has to back out, and I got news for you, NRG's down to the final minute.
A minute 5, and you have to remember that the run back distance for the offense is quite a lengthy one, and so this is really just the single fights kind of zone for them. They cannot get staggered here as Smex gets taken out. Now there's 50 seconds. As they regroup for the next fight, there's only going to be about 40 seconds left.
This is such a smart swap by Tailspin going to the Brigitte. When Stratus has the blade, he could steal Stratus's candy here with a well-placed bash.
We'll see. Stratus now, he has to be wary of this Tailspin. He's been playing this Brigitte for the majority of the series. Stratus gets this set up. He's been spotted out. The Widow's Kiss, never mind, goes on to the Winston.
Oh, already, they're gonna have to burn the res quick in the fight. That's the final res they have before time is gone. No extra lives now for NRG. Final 10 seconds. Setting up here the move to the point. The engage begins. McGravy contesting. And meanwhile, look to Stratus. He got Buds. Does he bring out the blade? Can he get into the back?
Thing is, take a look. Tailspin is camping the high ground with his supports. He is making sure that no one dives up top, but it's the Primal Rage used. Stratus has an opportunity to come in.
Yeah, Stratus right now hasn't been able to get through. Tailspin's been playing goalie, but now Stratus takes the opportunity. The Transcend is out, but it's not in time. McGravy gets cut down. Stratus still finds a way, picks up 2, and NRG, you're not done yet. Or are you? As the respawns come in, they're still fighting tooth and nail. But NRG, they're gonna clear it just a little bit more. It's an overtime, but they'll get a bit more.
That was a huge heads-up play coming out from Swan. He realized they had Tailspin, Crimzo, and Fire just camping in the upper left-hand portion. He uses the Primal Rage, just trying to force Tailspin to use that shield bash, anything from that combo so that Stratus could get in. But ultimately, enough pressure was applied that Stratus was able to get out there, get rid of the Mercy, get rid of the Brigitte, excuse me, and then just win out the team fight for NRG, but still, they are behind it. 2 minutes left to get through this shuttle phase as Envy go for a full regroup.
I'll note too, NRG's in peak form right now. You got Stratus on the Genji, Rascal on the Widow, and both are contributing now. They got out of the hole that they're in from the beginning in the quad tank, and now they're starting to grip their way back into this game. Envy gonna try and focus on the tanks right now near the payload, but Stratus is already almost built up a blade, 89%. Going back the other way. He's gonna have a blade in this fight. Nice deflection, gets stunned. The stun is over. Now would be the time to use the blade. And he's gonna wait. Waits.
The rally was used by Tailspin in that, but here comes the blade. Already takes out Tailspin. Now he's onto the Mercy. The swing connects as she falls, and NRG are continuing to carry this momentum forward.
And Rascal's landing shot after shot in the back right now, chunking down anyone who dares goes to the point. Rob even gets into the fray, and NRG definitely not done yet. They easily get through point B, and they still want to make this a game. And time-wise, you think about how long Envy took for point B. If NRG just flows through here quickly, that might be all they need to even this out.
Staggers coming out from Envy as they have to just reset themselves. They don't want to feed over more ultimates now. Stratus himself now goes over to the Brigitte, and so they're going to be relying upon Rascal here. The Rascal versus Bud's battle on this Widowmaker is going to be crucial. We'll see how much pressure Shiny and Swan as the main tanks, as the Winstons can apply onto these Widowmakers and buy time for their own.
I don't like the swap. I think Stratus was doing a lot of work on Genji. There's no dive coming in from Envy that makes you think, wow, this is a great time to go Brigitte. Stratus instead has to move forward and try and engage with Brigitte. It's not anywhere near as good, but Swan going to the back line. Doesn't matter, Smek's already out of the fight. I don't like the swap from NRG at all.
And already they're getting punished for it. They lost 2 members there. Shiny finds another, taking out Stratus in zone now. NRG are down to their final minute and a half. Great staggered pickups coming out from Envy.
What diver from Envy are you worried about that you decide to go to Brigitte here? Okay.
I mean, they might have been like worried a little bit about Shiny coming on in because he was able to kind of make Rascal's life a living hell on the defense. But ultimately, I don't think it was a huge enough threat, so neither do they, so they are going to go ahead and swap off onto the Hanzos.
Well, double sniper v double sniper. Let the best snipers win. Buds, though, goes for the guy on the other side, gets robbed, forces out the res. The mulligan, of course, gone. Tailspin deal with an angry Swan in his back line. Gonna do a little bit of a dance with him on the other end, and oh boy, he's sending people on a ride, but it's nothing but not lethal there, as Stratus ends up falling on the other end. And I do think there's a little bit of a disconnect for NRG. In the middle of it is now Envy starting to pull it back together.
Yeah, I bet Stratus was Brigitte there, as Shiny was able to get onto him, take him on out. Now we're down to our 30 seconds left for NRG. Envy very much on the cusp of taking this series. They are up 2-1 right now here on our 4th map, and now the Dragon Strike comes out from Tailspin, splits them up, forces out the Transcendence as they try to push forward. 15 seconds left. Stratus gets the pick on Tailspin.
Stratus, that was big, but they need a little bit more. Fozik's out of the fight. There's no one left to be the workhorse of healing for NRG. Stratus under pressure, trying to lunge away, can't do it. McGravy chases him on down. Rascal trying to make room here from the back. Zenyatta in his sights, looking for more. Down goes Crimzo, but NRG, you gotta get back over to the point. Envy respawns are coming in. Overtime ticks down. No one can get there. And it's going to be Envy taking the series here on Gibraltar. Well played to them.
Yeah, NRG started out looking strong in that series, but unfortunately, if you are an NRG fan, you probably haven't been that disappointed with an ending since probably Darling in the Franks. It was bad.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
All right.
You're not wrong.
Glad we had that moment. But yeah, for sure. I have to know. I wish I was in comms. I wish I just had some like crystal ball that would show me why we make decisions we do. Stratus on Projectile, you're winning things.
Yep.
Stratus on Brigitte, Stratus on Widowmaker, you stop winning things, right? Like at the end there, you can't even say, okay, well, we'll just have the Brigitte for the rally. You just switched. You have no alt charge.
It killed their momentum. They had everything they needed here through second. They recovered from a bad beginning where they did the quad tank thing that was just weird and put them on the back foot. They crushed second point, and then they decide, you know, Stratus, you've been doing real well in the Genji. Why don't you go to Brigitte? It's just, it was very nonsensical. It'd be one thing if Envy had come out and committed to a Tracer or a Genji on the other end, but Brigitte doesn't like situations where there's people hitting her from long range like Hanzos and Widows and people aren't trying to dive on in. So that coaching decision towards the end was very perplexing for me because I think NRG could have fought this back.
Yeah, certainly. Like I said, I'd like to know the details behind that. If there's ever a point where maybe that's on Reddit somewhere, I'd love to read that juicy little tidbit. But Jamerson, Bud, certainly we have to say Envy won this as much as NRG lost it, and Buds was a big proponent of kind of why they won this.
Yeah, I mean, both on defense and both on offense. Here on the 3rd point, Buds was able to hold it down for his team. Not to see right there. This is what happens when Shiny is able to create the space for him. He got rid of Stratus early on in this fight, and then from there, Buds was able to just stay in that power position on the high ground with almost no worries in the world. Got 3 shots off. Same thing happened when we went over to the defensive end there. Buds had so much space created for him, once again by Shiny, who was able to take out Stratus, who was on, I believe it was the Hanzo at that time.
Yeah, NRG Esports now goes down to 2-2. Envy goes up to 3-1, and Envy has kind of passed the most difficult parts of their schedule. I believe they have Toronto Esports left, certainly a team that has to be taken seriously, but are we comfortable with this point for Group B awarding Team Envy kind of that #2 team status?
I think it's pretty likely. Obviously, things could change, but based on what we know from the teams, based on their performance, and given the fact that Envy has looked a bit better week after week and Toronto's been kind of middling, I do think that Envy will absolutely end up taking #2 in this group.
Yeah, I would have to agree, especially after this performance up against NRG right now. Their only other contenders was Toronto, but Toronto's kind of on a downward swing right now, and I don't know if they're going to be able to clean this up in time for next week.
Yeah, certainly we are getting to the tail end of the regular season, at least for Season 2 here, so the standings are starting to kind of flesh out in terms of what they're going to be. Don't go anywhere, though. When we come back, bye week versus Sky Foxes. One of these teams is getting their first win. You want to be there to capture history.